Good afternoon, everyone. We're so excited to do our interview today with views from the bridge. The gentleman we have here today is extremely special. His name is Calvin Morgan, and he has more than 20 years experience in the employees relation and training. And in fact, he's actually known as the Dean of Consultants at Learning Dynamics. Now, Calvin has designed and presented numerous training programs in diversity, effective presentation skills, business ethics, workplace violence awareness, customer service, and sexual harassments. And in fact, Calvin, correct me if I'm wrong, but you've even served on the Connecticut Commission for the Advancement of Diversity. Is that correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay, so I am super excited to speak with you today because I have a whole load of questions for you. Are you ready?
For a whole load? I'm not
A
sure.
whole load of questions, yes. So I guess the first one is, let's start with sort of the sort of factual background of you. Just give us a little background on Learning Dynamics and your role within that.
Well, Learning Dynamics is a nationwide organization. We create training programs that enhance leadership, human resource compliance, sales and service, business skills, and we have some bank-specific programs and services, organizational development, management consulting services. And among the training programs that we specialize in are programs around DEI, like diversity without adversity, how do employees or managers create an environment that leads to success, and a program called Common Decency. So there are a number of programs that we provide, and as I said, we're a nationwide organization. We have clients all over the country. We have consultants all over the country. So, just check us out on the website and you'll see what we do.
Well, that's why I'm really excited to speak with you today, because I know you cross many different industries. And of course, real estate, we directly touch the people every day. And so it's really critical that we wanted to get an idea of what your experience has been. So let's do this. How did you actually, before I even go forward, how did you actually get into this field?
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Actually, more than 30 years ago, I'm going to say maybe 35 or so years ago, I was a management development administrator for a large local company. And that's when I was tasked with developing a D&I program for managers. And so that another employee went to work on this because they had nothing. And that program that we developed as part of their management development curriculum then led to the formation of a diversity council in that company. And that led finally to a full company effort around DEI. So it started out small, just developing a program which didn't exist, to the organization becoming fully involved in the diversity effort.
Now, so how long ago, how long did it take to do this? Like, when did you start approximately? Over what period of time did it take to grow like that?
Wow. I'm going to say that it took probably 4 years.
Wow.
Before everyone, at least verbally, were engaged in the process. I mean, it took a lot of effort. It wasn't until we had the CEO of the organization on board with the effort, and we had another vice president who became the champion of diversity. And once we had that vice president as the champion, then the rest of the organization began to realize that this is not only is it right, it's part of my job, but it really is the right thing to do. And so
matters.
Middle management then fell into place, and it became a pretty successful event, process within the organization.
Nice. Now, how long ago was all this?
Probably 30, 35 years ago.
Wow. Wow. I love that. So 30, 35 years ago. So now flash forward to 2022, what kind of changes have you noticed since, the early days of this kind of advocacy began?
Probably the biggest things is that many attitudes have changed. We might not think as when we take an immediate look at the turmoil and everything else that seems to be going on, we might think that the attitudes are really bad. And there's, to be sure, there is some work that needs to be done on folks' attitudes. But I will tell you that from the beginning of diversity efforts that I have been involved in, I have seen attitudes shift over the years. So I think it's, without saying it's on an uptick, I'll tell you that it is better than it was in the pioneering days of the effort.
Well, it's a really important question because, given that experience, because we've talked, and I some days just feel so frustrated because I don't see the growth. You obviously were formally involved and over a lot of years. So what do you think accounts for the resistance to DEI? And by the way, for those watching who don't know what that is, we're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. So what accounts for, why would somebody want to be resistant to that?
I will tell you that what I found anyway, is that the initial response people thought they had to give up something. And people don't like to change. And so when we started the effort initially, my experiences was that people kind of dug into their position. The way we have always done things is the way we should do them. They're fine. Why make any changes? And it's also this idea of having to give up something. It's almost like people were keeping score. How do I know I'm up unless somebody else is down? Now, they might not have consciously said that, but this was the thinking that I found out as we went along, that was part of the resistance. So the effort had to continue. And as we continued the effort, folks began to realize that there's room for everyone and we're all in this together. And so once folks realized that this wasn't going to cost them anything, it was just an effort to get to understand folks that you worked with, folks who you worked for, folks who worked for you, get to understand the people in the workplace, that it was going to make for a much smoother running of the organization. It's going to, a diverse workforce was going to make for better decision making across a long period of time. When people realized that it was going to be good for the organization and therefore good for them, then some of the resistance started to break down.
So you talked about, so they started to see that it wasn't going to affect them negatively. I get that. What was it they actually thought they were going to give up, or what was it going to cost them? Did anyone actually articulate that, or was it just a reaction?
It was, well, I had it articulated to me a few times. Folks felt comfortable enough to say it, but they really thought that they would have to give up position within the organization, their standing within the organization. If you let someone else in, that's going to somehow affect your position in the hierarchy. And folks weren't willing to do that, at least not openly. And it wasn't until they realized that the room was big enough for everyone that some of the resistance started to break down.
Did you ever question any of them? And I'm not saying you should have. I just can't imagine in a formal environment how hard this must have been. Mm-hmm. Did you ever ask any of them did they react? Let's, for example, use you have a business and you have X number of people that all are white, okay? But new people are hired all the time. Do you ever question why is your reaction to a non-Caucasian person different than to a Caucasian person? Ever see the sort of double standard there?
Well, yes. When when the question was raised and it was brought to their attention, and it used code words like, well, I just feel more comfortable with this person versus this person, even though their qualifications and the skills were very similar. The whole idea that I seem to work better with this person than this person, and of course that would lead to the questions. Well, we now have to examine, why is that? What is it that, we may talk about this, but what is this implicit bias toward this person versus this person? But once I got them to admit that, then I knew there was room for us to talk. Room for growth.
Room, hopefully, for growth.
Yes.
And it's funny that you sort of ended on that place, because my next question was going to say, what do you say to people who are adamant? There's no implicit bias. There's no inequality. Like, what do you say to those people?
Wow, that's a big question, because there's just a lot. There's just a lot you could say. I mean, for me, I would try to keep it as simple as possible. But turn on your news. Talk to your friends, talk to your family, chat with the people you work with every day, and you will hear from them, and perhaps even see yourself some of the biases and inequity at every turn. I mean, we could spend the rest of our time talking about what to say to them, but if you could just get them to open their eyes, you wouldn't have to say much. Most good-hearted people will see it.
And I knew, right? And you and I have discussed that, and that's probably one of the most frustrating things for me, when I have people who otherwise, on the surface, seem to be good contributing members of society. They care about their family. They don't want to hurt people. And they say things like, there's no bias. I don't understand that. And I after a while, it's really hard for me to get them to open their eyes. So that's my biggest challenge, trying to find the right key. So yeah. That's the hardest part. So let's see what this is a great question. I had written down some thoughts. Within the context of the trainings you've done, whether it's you individually or, you within the context of a company, what would you consider, some of the most memorable, whether it be a success or not a success, but the most memorable?
Well, there's a lot of history there.
Okay.
But I'll tell you one thing I do remember is I worked, this large local company was an engineering company, or at least the foundation of it was engineering. And there were very few minority engineers. And I would always ask the question, why do we have so few? And the answer was, well, we can't find, minority engineers. Mm. And I asked, well, so where are you recruiting? Well, all the engineering schools, and they mentioned Georgia Tech, right? And so I said, oh, well, who are you looking for? Well, like everyone else, we're looking for the top 10%. And so I said to them, so you mean to tell me that if there's a Black student in the top 10% of Georgia Tech's graduating engineering class, what are you offering them to come here to the Northeast?
Right.
And when they come and look at this organization, what about this organization is going to entice them to want to be here? I mean, if you look at the hierarchy of the organization, there is no one at the top of this organization that looks like them. Absolutely. There are very few in the middle of this organization that look like them. So the top 10% of that class can go anywhere in the country to work. Right. Why would they come here? So I said, you're not going to get them. So let's not lower our sights. Let's shift our sight, because you are not going to get the top 10% from Georgia Tech. However, Howard University has an engineering class. Yep. You possibly with some changes in the organization, you might be able to get some of the top 10 from
Yep.
Howard. So they actually got them to do some recruiting at Howard.
Nice. Nice.
So that was kind of exciting.
No, that's not kind of exciting. That's really exciting. Very, very cool. So let's pull it back to, we're getting towards the end of this interview. Let's pull it back to realtors. Let's pull it back to the real estate industry. You and I have talked quite a bit about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. What advice, if any, would you give to realtors, specifically in focusing on DEI, whether it be agent to agent, agent to client, broker, administration of associations, any of that? What advice would you give?
Oh, I don't want to sound too hokey when I say this, but the fact is that you have a trust, and people are coming to you with what will be, for most of them, biggest investment that they're going to make in their lifetime.
Yep.
So it is incumbent on you to treat your clients fairly. And here's the thing, not only is unfair treatment unethical, but what you may be doing could be illegal.
Oh, there's no could about it. Absolutely.
So, treat your clients fairly. Give all of them an equal opportunity to share in their dream without pointing them in any direction other than what they want and what's best for them. And I always remember that Mark Twain is reported to have said, "Always do the right thing. You'll gratify some and astound the rest."
Nice. Yep.
So just do the right thing.
Absolutely. Well, for those who don't know us, we met through a real estate transaction. And let me ask you, as a consumer, as a person who's bought and sold houses, have you any experiences ever that were negative or positive in the real estate world? You're the consumer now.
Well, I've had at least one negative experience, and that was I remember initially when I was looking to buy a house, I knew where I wanted to live. I'd grown up and for the most part in the Hartford area, and I was looking to buy a house outside of Hartford, and I know that the real estate agent was not showing me anything except houses in Hartford. And when I mentioned, well, I'm really kind of interested in living in Wethersfield, the response was, well, the schools might not be what you're looking for. And I don't remember discussing what school I'm looking for with the real estate agent. So, I mean, it was clear to me that this person was trying to put me in a certain area. And I just had a negative feeling,
of course,
after that. But
that's called steering, by the way, and that's illegal. Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely illegal. Forget the morality of it, which that's off the charts wrong. That's just illegal. And so that's what, we're trying to reach our agents with, understanding the impact on human lives.
Yeah.
So where did you end up?
I ended up in Hartford. But it was by choice. I was talking to a colleague of mine, and I realized that as I was growing up in my neighborhood, I didn't see many people like me, and that is people getting up in the morning, putting on a suit and tie, going to work. I didn't see those people, and I realized that I was one of them. And so, what an example would that might be for people in my neighborhood to see someone who would get up, go to work, working in an office, working in a corporation,
Yep.
someone who looked like them, and thought to themselves, there are other jobs out there. So I decided that my children would be best raised by going, at least initially, to the Hartford public school system.
Yeah.
I was going to ensure that they got the education they needed because I was going to be an involved parent. So I was there throughout their entire school years, but it turned out well for them and turned out well for me.
Well, that doesn't surprise me. I know you and your wife, so that's not surprising. Well, Calvin, I am so grateful for the time you took to talk with us today. It means a lot. We're trying to reach people in their heads, in their hearts, and you've hit mine. So thank you. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Okay. And so there you have it, another episode of Views from the Bridge. Thank you so much for joining us today. If anyone has any questions, any comments, please don't hesitate to email us at gar@garonline.com. And that's GHAR@GHARonline.com. Have a wonderful day.